him, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I know he was. It's his way to. He cannot express himself properly. He is very, how can I say, shy, maybe introverted.
Yeah,
And,
maybe introvert would be a good way to define his character, right? He's an introvert, and he's not really open and friendly and such. Not like Mr. Bingley.
Exactly. And reading these chapters, I realized that even me, I am very alike Mr. Darcy in certain points. So
you relate to Mr. Darcy's behavior.
Yeah, some points, yes. So my point of view about Mr. Darcy is changing a lot.
So you were like starting to like him.
Yes, I am. I hadn't
Sorry?
I was going to say I hadn't watched the movie, and I didn't have pay attention for these details. I'm not sure if I was not paying so much attention, or the book describes better the character. So
yeah,
now I realize that Mr. Darcy is not so bad.
We get a better picture of Mr. Darcy. No, he's not so bad. He's a nice guy. What about you, Leticia? Have you changed your mind about any of the characters?
So let me see. About Mr. Forget the name now. This is soldier.
Mr. Wickham.
Yes.
We all like him in the beginning, right?
Yeah, but in the fact that do you change about this? Do you observe that's not good?
And we came to the point, right? The last chapter we're going to work with today, that is chapter 35, is Mr. Darcy's letter to Elizabeth, right? Explaining who Mr. Wickham actually was and what happened to Mr. Darcy's sister, and what happened when they were kids, and talking about Jane and Mr. Bingley and such. Okay, but guys, we're going to play a game, okay? A Pride and Prejudice game today. Have you ever played a Kahoot game?
No.
No?
Play what?
Kahoot.
What's this?
I'm gonna show you. We're gonna have a quiz and we're gonna have a competition. I hope you like it. So you guys will have to use a different, you can use the computer, okay? Or you can use a different device, all right? So it's www.kahoot.it, okay? And it's gonna ask you for a pin, that is the game's pin, okay? 1033759. And then you're gonna write your names, and I'm waiting for you here.
What is the address again?
I'm sorry?
The address of the site.
www.kahoot.it. It's this one here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me check it.
Okay, Leticia is in, Alvaro is in.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do it. I'm gonna show you how it works, okay? Basically, you will see the question on my screen, okay? And on your screen for the game, you will see 4 different symbols with 5 different colors. Each symbol corresponds to an answer, and on your screen, you have to click on the correct answer, okay? And you have to try to be correct, of course, and as fast as possible. possible because the fastest player to answer correctly scores higher, okay?
Okay.
So let's start. First question, get ready. Who said that? And I have another favor to ask. Will you come and see me? Who said that? Jane, Mr. Collins, Charlotte, or Elizabeth? Remember there was a wedding? Oh, okay. So we have one correct answer. That was Charlotte. And somebody said Mr. Collins. Somebody said, yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Collins. So let's see. Who was that? Who got it right? Okay, Alvaro, so far you were the first one. So guys, do you remember why Charlotte asked Elizabeth to come and see her?
I don't remember.
Why she asked to see her to come and see
Yeah,
her?
so do you remember the context?
She was going to marry, but I don't remember that.
Charlotte got married to Mr. Collins, right?
Yes.
Do you remember the place in which Mr. Collins lived?
The name I forgot the name. There are so many names in this book.
Yeah, there are many different names.
Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire. What is it? Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire, yes. Because remember, Mr. Collins lived in the parsonage near Lady Catherine's big house, right? So when Charlotte got married to Mr. Collins, she moved to this place, right? And she asked Elizabeth to come and visit her because her father, Charlotte's father, and Charlotte's sister would come to visit her after a few months. Was it easy or difficult to go from one place to another at that time in the past?
It was difficult because the ways of locomotion was not so easy, especially for Elizabeth's family. That was not so fortunate. So was not. I don't remember if it was a huge distance. I don't remember the
For us nowadays, it's not a huge distance, 50 miles.
Yes. But for them, it was a little bit difficult.
At that point, there is a further conversation between Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy about distances, right? And Elizabeth says, okay, for a rich person, it may not be a long distance, but for normal people, it's expensive to take this kind of trip very frequently. So it was difficult for people to be like coming and going all the time. Because of the means of transport, of course, you would have to take a carriage. And because the conditions were not good, it was expensive.
Yes.
Okay. Next question. Remember, it's always a who said that question. Okay, you have to say which character said.
Okay.
But there seems an indelicacy in directing his attention towards her so soon after this event. This one is difficult. Mrs. Gardner, Mrs. Bennet, Caroline Bingley, or Elizabeth? The character is talking about Mr. Wickham and Miss King. The time. Oh, sorry, nobody got it right.
Oh, yes.
So,
I remember in the cafeteria.
Mrs. Gardner's.
I don't remember.
Yes, Elizabeth was
It's a difficult quiz. Okay, so
yeah.
you said Mrs. Bennet or Elizabeth. Do you remember Mrs. Gardner? Do you remember who she was?
Yes, Elizabeth's mom, sister, cunhada.
I think, yes, she was Elizabeth's mother's sister-in-law, right? She was married to Mrs. Bennet's brother. And Elizabeth and Mrs. Gardner, we're talking about Elizabeth falling in love with Mr. Wickham, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember whether Elizabeth said she was or she wasn't in love with Mr. Wickham?
When she said
do you remember if she said whether she was or she wasn't in love with Mr. Wickham?
She wasn't. I remember she emphasized that she really wasn't in love with Mrs.
Exactly. She said, oh, no, I am not in love with Mr. Wickham, but he is the most agreeable man of my circle. Right, but she said she was decidedly not in love with Mr. Wickham, and then she started talking about Mr. Wickham's approach with this lady called Miss King. Do you remember why Mr. Wickham got closer to Miss King?
Yes, she
why?
Was. She was single, and she apparently. She had good conditions for the people who would marry with her. Would get a good amount of money, basically.
She was a single girl, and she had inherited some money because her uncle, I guess, passed away. And as soon as she got rich, Mr. Wickham got closer to her. But at this point, can we imagine something? Okay, now we know the story, right? We have seen the movie and we have read the book, but at this point, for people who have never read the book, is it possible to think something wrong about Mr. Wickham?
Well, we can realize some things. We can see that it's suspicious.
We cannot guess, but we can suspect, right? Oh, there is something wrong here. He stopped being friends with Elizabeth, and now he's much closer to the girl who inherited a lot of money.
He suddenly forgot Elizabeth and
totally, right? Elizabeth was the first girl to whom he got closer to, right? To whom he got closer. Do you remember why Mrs. Gardner was in Mr. Bennet's property? Why did they visit the Bennets?
I remember she was going to invite Elizabeth to come with her to her house
one day
to travel, and came with her where she was going to.
Yeah, in this first moment, she invited Jane, right, to go to London, because how was Jane at this point? Mr. Bingley had already left Netherfield, and Jane was really sad and down and depressed.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yes. And oops, I'm just trying to find find a way here, find my place here. Okay, got it. So Jane was feeling bad because Mr. Bingley had left, had said nothing.
And your sister say she interested in the Mrs. Darcy.
And Georgiana Darcy.
Yes.
Yeah, Caroline Bingley wrote a letter to Jane saying that Mr. Bingley missed Georgiana, and they expected them to get married very soon. This is why Jane was feeling really poor. So Mrs. Gardner came from London to take Jane back with her. And in the meantime, Elizabeth decided to visit Charlotte.
Yeah.
Next question. I like her appearance. She looks sickly and cross. Yes, she will do for him very well. This is a character talking about The daughter of Lady Cat. I'm sorry.
Oh, Mr. Colors. I'm
Yeah, but if we think about this kind of sentence, we don't really connect it to Elizabeth, right?
Yeah, that's would be my last shot, because I don't think Elizabeth would say like something like this. I don't
But
know.
she did.
Okay, now
You remember?
yeah, now yes.
So,
a musiquinha a gente fica meio tipo, meu Deus, dá branco.
but that's how the game works. This is why I like it.
I know.
Okay, so Leticia, do you remember the context now? Can you talk about it?
I think it's after Elizabeth visiting Mr. Collins and visiting the I'm for Lady Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
So she stay. I don't remember well if Elizabeth talked with Caroline. I don't. Oh my gosh, I'm confused with every names now.
It's a lot of names.
Yeah, the wife of Mr. Collins.
Charlotte.
Yes, Elizabeth talked with Charlotte. I don't remember well. I think this.
Mm-hmm. They are talking, right? I think Elizabeth and Charlotte are talking, and then there is a fuss in the house because somebody arrived, and Elizabeth is like, what's going on? And it was just the daughter of Lady Catherine. Her name is Anne, if I'm not mistaken. And Elizabeth looks at her and she thinks about Mr. Darcy, because at this point she thought Mr. Darcy was going to marry Lady Catherine's daughter, right? And she looks sickly and cross, so she will do for him very well. So she thinks she's gonna be a good wife for Mr. Darcy, because she's not very, friendly and beautiful and such.
I remember this part.
Do you remember it in the movie?
Not really.
No.
It's a girl who's like sitting on the couch, huge glasses on, and she never says anything. And Lady Catherine talks all the time. Lady Catherine never shuts up.
A good memory.
Okay, let's see if you can do better for the next one.
Okay.
No governess. How was that possible? 5 daughters brought up at home without a governess.
Oh,
that's easy.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Remember, the time is crucial here. Okay, Lady Catherine. What was Lady Catherine talking about?
About the sisters, Elizabeth, the 5 sisters, Elizabeth. Because the father don't put on in the home the governance for education. Your daughters.
Yeah, so Lady Catherine, she says, oh, you should have been sent to London. You should have had a governess. Do you know how to, do you play the piano? Do you know how to draw? Do you paint? Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
Then about it, show the little systems in society and early.
Yeah.
Think it's not possible, not to
the 5 of you out in society, because the eldest before the eldest is married.
Yeah.
Yeah, chapter 28 was about Lady Catherine talking a lot about inconvenience comments all the time, inconvenient questions.
But Lady Catherine is inconvenience itself,
she
right?
wants to govern the life of other people.
Yeah, I think there is a very funny passage. It's not here, but it's when Maria Lucas and her father and Elizabeth are going back home. The girl goes to Lady Catherine's house, and when she comes back, she unpacks and packs everything again because of what Lady Catherine has said about how to pack, how to organize your things. So she had to undo everything and do it again because of Lady Catherine. But why do you think she talks a lot about education? Do you have any idea how different girls' education and boys' education was at that point? So what
Yeah.
were girls mostly concerned about, mothers mostly concerned about when it came to girls' education?
Lady Catherine is more moralist, and the education for her is more
Conservative?
conservative. So, and for women, it's more learning about the play piano, cuidar da casa,
Taking care of the house,
take care of the house, take
painting,
care,
drawing.
yes, have abilities for speaking other languages.
Mhm.
And for guys, it's more about business and the
Riding horses, shooting.
yes,
For rich families, right?
yes, yes, of course.
For wealthy families. So the girls had to know how. Do you remember Caroline Bingley describing an accomplished girl in the beginning of the book and the film?
Yeah, she needs know all things, play piano, speak very different languages, reading a book, is dancing. She needs to have all abilities, and it's
Right.
not possible.
And then Elizabeth says, I'm surprised that, like half a dozen accomplished women, because it's really difficult to be accomplished. We translate the word accomplished as prendada in Portuguese, right? Which is a word that was highly used in the past for a girl. Oh, can you cook? Can you, I don't know, can you paint? Can you do this and can you do that? And then you are accomplished. So the girls' education was more about being accomplished. It was not like a real education, like reading books and getting to understand more about history, geography, mathematics, and such. Nobody really cared. Why should a woman care about that?
Very necessary.
For girls, it wasn't necessary. Okay, if girls could read, it was basically enough. Like they can write letters and they can read, and then it's okay.
Then Elizabeth has one sister like reads a lot of.
Mary.
Mary is very critical person with her.
She tries to, right?
Yeah.
She tries to be a smart, accomplished girl, but in fact, she's not. We find out that she's not.
Lady Catherine make it critical. The father stimulated this placement behavior. Your system.
Yeah. So Lady Catherine disapproves of the way the girls were brought up. She disapproves of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. All right, Leticia, next time you will have to try to answer correctly and be fast, okay?
Yeah.
My eldest sister has been in town these 3 months. Have you never happened to see her there? Who asked this question? I'm gonna give you a hint. The character asked Mr. Darcy. It was in a conversation with Mr. Darcy. Time. Okay, Elizabeth. So do you remember the context?
It's Elizabeth about the Jane. But I don't remember exactly the moment she said, and I don't remember well.
I think they were at Rosings Park at Lady Catherine's house, and they were having a conversation. And Elizabeth knew from the beginning that they had never met in London, right? But she wanted to test him. Jane had sent a letter saying that she had only met Caroline Bingley, but for a short time, right? So Elizabeth knew that Mr. Darcy had never seen her in London, but she wanted to test how he would reply. Do you remember how Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth met at Rosings?
Sorry?
Do you remember how Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy met at Rosings Park at Lady Catherine's house?
Yeah, I think it is because Mr. Darcy is the uncle.
The nephew.
Then yeah, the nephew.
He is Lady Catherine's nephew.
Yes, the nephew, Lady Catherine, and she go for knows Lady Catherine and find Mr. Darcy in the place.
So she was surprised.
Surprise for her, yeah.
For her, it was a surprise, but from what we can infer from the story, did Mr. Darcy know that Elizabeth would be there?
Yeah, because he going to talk to her after for get to marry, he proposes for her, and he knows she stays.
Right, he knew that she would be there.
Yeah.
And he was trying to do everything to find her every time in the park, like stalking her.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, he was sort of stalking her while she was walking around the park.
Yeah.
This was what stalking was like 250 years ago.
Ela acha assim irritante, né? Irritante seria.
Yeah, she was, because she didn't know. Like she was like, what does he want? He's like following me all the time, but he never says anything.
And she told then this moment he don't like her because he say in the past she's normal, she's not special, so she don't understand why he stay find it for her.
Yeah, why he keeps on like going after her or trying to find her.
Yeah.
Poor Elizabeth.
He didn't know how to express his feelings, so apparently he was trying.
He was trying really hard, right? Yeah, but he was doing it totally wrong. Let's say, come on, Mr. Darcy, this is not how you do it.
Yeah, always making strange questions and stuff. And
or sometimes he wouldn't say anything, like he would just stand by her and say nothing.
Yeah, very weird.
Oh, Mr. Darcy. Okay, you got it. Leticia's coming, okay, Álvaro? Watch out.
Okay.
She's coming closer. I had not at that time the honor of knowing any lady in the assembly beyond my own party. The character was explaining his behavior. Hi. Oh. Okay, it was Mr. Darcy. Somebody said Lady Catherine. Do you remember the context?
No.
Yes.
No? Álvaro, do you? Go ahead.
I think it was during the conversation between Elizabeth and Colonel Fitzwilliam. He was talking about Mr. Darcy in his presence, and he started to justify his behavior on his first when he met her.
When they first met at a ball.
Yes, in their first met.
Is the expression my own party.
My own party. It was like my own party was my own group.
Okay.
You remember, Mr. Darcy in the first ball, he only danced with Caroline Bingley and the other Bingley sister. And he said that he didn't dance with any other lady because he didn't know any lady. But we know that's not true, right? Because we know that at the ball in the beginning, people told him, oh, but Elizabeth is Jane's sister, blah, blah, blah. And he said he was not handsome enough. She was just tolerable.
Yeah.
So he tried to justify his behavior, right? I had not at the time the honor of knowing any lady. And I remember in the movie, the character, the actress who plays Elizabeth, and she says very ironically, oh, and nobody can be introduced at a ball. Like, you didn't dance because you didn't want to.
Yeah. It was totally just trying to justify something very weird behavior.
Okay, Alvaro, you got a sequence here. 3 correct answers in a row.
Okay.
My dear Eliza, he must be in love with you, or he would never have called us in this familiar way. Ten seconds. Ah, okay, you got it right. Do you remember when Charlotte says it?
I don't remember the exact moment.
Do you remember the conversation?
I think it's about after Charlotte agreeing Mr. Collins for marriage. I don't remember well.
Not really, but do you remember the conversation between Elizabeth and Colonel Fitzwilliam, in which Colonel Fitzwilliam reveals that Mr. Darcy saved Mr. Bingley?
Yeah, I remember.
So this is how Elizabeth found out that Mr. Darcy was responsible for separating Jane and Mr. Bingley, right? And then she was so mad. She got so mad. She was supposed to have dinner at Rosings that day, tea or dinner or something, and she decides not to go. She says she has a headache, and she stays at Charlotte's home.
Oh,
and
okay.
Mr. Darcy appears like a, how are you doing? Is everything okay with you? Like,
Oh,
yeah. And when Charlotte comes in, Mr. Darcy leaves in a hurry. Charlotte gets really surprised, like, what was he doing here, coming in without, because there was a lot of formality involving this kind of visit, right? Especially for a woman who was alone, basically alone at home. And Mr. Darcy came in like, he never told anybody he would show up. There was a lot of formality involved, a lot of etiquette and such. So he must be in love with you, or he would never have called us in this familiar way. To call them at it's like to come to the place, right?
yeah.
How was Elizabeth when she saw that Mr. Darcy had come to visit her?
After she discovered the truth.
After discovering the truth. But
Well,
we still didn't get to the offer of marriage point.
She was pretending everything was okay, but she was very angry about everything because he screwed up with his sister wedding, basically, and she was trying to.
So she was.
She was cool, but she was not.
She was trying to act okay, to act cool, but she was really mad at Mr. Darcy, and she decided to stay home because she was really mad. But she was trying to act cool, but she couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, Leticia, you still have a chance because we still have 3 questions. Mr. Darcy is uncommonly kind to Mr. Bingley and takes a prodigious deal of care of him. Be careful. Ah, okay. It was Elizabeth, not Colonel Fitzwilliam. It was in a conversation with Colonel Fitzwilliam, but it was actually Elizabeth being ironic uh, about Mr. Darcy taking care of Mr. Bingley.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ah, okay. Letícia, Álvaro, watch out. Leticia's coming. In vain I have struggled. It will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you. Oh, come on. This one is easy. Okay. Do you remember, guys, how Mr. Darcy said that and why he said that?
Yeah, he suddenly started to show her feelings for Elizabeth, finally.
Mm-hmm.
And Elizabeth was like frozen sometimes, but he thought he was given the opportunity to him to talk, but
To continue,
she
right?
was shocked because all the situation, she was feeling like she wanted to kill him because of all everything he did, and she started talking and telling how he was feeling about her.
Mm-hmm. And
So
then Mr. Darcy was the one who got angry, right? Because he was rejected. He was she had no ceremonies rejecting his offer. So this is how he starts to open up, right? In vain I have struggled, it will not do. My feelings will not be repressed. You must allow me to tell you. And then he continues to tell you how ardently I love you, blah, 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 blah. And then Elizabeth is shocked, absolutely shocked, and she cannot reply. And he thinks this is an encouragement for him to continue. So the book mentions, and so does actually Elizabeth, that it never really occurred to Mr. Darcy that he could be rejected. Do you think Mr. Darcy had any fear or any expectations regarding this offer? Do you think it actually crossed his mind that he could have been rejected by Elizabeth?
In the first time,
Yes.
we don't waiting for rejection because he think it's better for her and her no. Tipo, ela não tava aos pés dele. Tipo, ele tava quase que fazendo um favor pra ela.
Assim, né? Tipo isso, foi mais ou menos isso. Olha, eu estou aqui.
So
né?
when her reject you, he stay very surprised.
He gets really surprised. Like he talks about his birth, his rank, his position in society, blah blah blah. And if I were Elizabeth, I would punch him in the face, right? But
yeah, at this
very moment, I hate Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
Because it was like the worst offer of marriage I have ever seen.
She was very patient.
It's good.
Sorry?
She was very patient with Mr.
She was
Darcy.
actually more polite than any person would have been, right?
Yeah.
She was very controlled.
She was. Yeah. I thought she would kick him or punch his face because she seems this kind of girl, but she was very polite in this moment.
Okay.
I would like to be calm like Elizabeth was because
she was very calm and very polite indeed. But yeah, Elizabeth seems like the kind of person who would punch a person and punch somebody else in the face for hearing something like that. But she reacted better than he deserved at this point because he was totally crazy. Like impolite and all the bad things we don't expect Mr. Darcy to be because we like him, right? Okay, last question. I think you may still have a chance, Leticia. This, ma'am, is a faithful narrative of every event in which we have been concerned together. The time, people. Okay. It was Mr. Darcy. It was Mr. Darcy in his letter. Remember, he wrote Elizabeth a very long letter to talk about the 2 offenses she laid against him. According to him, offenses, right?
I'm confused with the question because I thought about the Mr. Wickman always being good, the good guy, and the concern about the problem with the sister Elizabeth.
Elizabeth's sister. Yeah. What do you think about Mr. Darcy's letter?
Well, like you said, it was huge, a huge letter.
It's a huge letter.
An entire chapter just for a letter. And he was trying to fix the things. But there is one part of this letter that I thought was very inconvenient, that even trying to justify, he was talking about how he considered Elizabeth's family
inferior,
weird.
right?
He could avoid this part, and
he could have, right?
Yeah, he's very inconvenient sometimes.
He could have, left this part out. Like he didn't have to repeat how inferior Elizabeth's family was, but he insisted on it to explain. And he said he thought it was a compliment that he could exclude Jane and Elizabeth, like from the rest of the family who had a most inconvenient kind of behavior. But again, we have to tell Mr. Darcy this is not how you do it. So there is the letter, and then we're going to stop here, okay? And for our next book club, we're going to continue. We're going to check Elizabeth's reaction to the letter, what it is like when she goes back to her house, when she talks to Jane, and whether she talks about the letter or not, and what she decides to tell Jane.
Okay.
So there is no third place. There is no second runner up. Almost, Leticia. Next time you're gonna do better.
Okay.
It's a bit slow, but it's gonna show up here. Okay, let me just check something. Elias, are you there? Yeah, so if you would like to get a print here too. I love Kahoot. Álvaro, Leticia, do you like this kind of quiz, this like a game?
Yes, yeah. I think a little difficult because I don't understand any questions. But okay, that's problem.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. Next time I'm gonna be.
No problem. That's problem. I need to better my vocabulary than simple words.
And it was more like a memory booster here, because sometimes it's difficult to remember which character said what, because there are many characters and as the story goes. But next time it's not going to be so difficult, I promise. Okay.
No
Okay.
problem. That's good exercise. It's a little difficult because you need to understand the question in English and remember in English. And
You have a time.
a great
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
exercise.
30 seconds to answer.
Yeah, the answer in English.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for coming. We're gonna have our next session next month, okay?
Okay, and
Okay.
next session it's about other book or about the continuous
We
this book?
will continue this one until we finish, and then we're gonna have different sessions.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Goodbye. Have a great weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye. See you.
See you.